Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who have their natal Venus forming a square or opposition to their Saturn. And I'm going to start with the opposition and then follow it up with the square. But you should listen to the whole thing because when I was compiling this list, I went to different sites and it seemed like difficult to really find something that I agreed with, that I really resonated with. And so one of the things with squares and oppositions, being that they're both challenging, is that you'll find that there are similar themes when you're talking about two planets that are involved. Like, whether it's a square or opposition, that they will have very similar outcomes. So it's important, like if you're listening for your opposition, which I'm going to be doing first, that you also listen for the square because you might find something there as well. And the other thing, I didn't put down the issue with money, which I probably should have. I'll just hopefully I'll just remember to bring that up. Now, when we're talking about Venus and Saturn, we might as well be talking about Martians and unicorns, but maybe Martians and unicorns have a lot in common. I don't know. But it's just so different, what they represent, what they, how they express themselves. Venus is this planet of love and beauty. It's all about pleasure. It's the planet associated with money. And you could, I would assume Venus is associated with leisure, because Venus, the goddess, she seems very languid as she, I've seen paintings with Venus, and she's always like kind of chilling. She's not really doing a lot of hard work like you associate with Saturn, And then you think about Saturn. What are some of the themes of Saturn? Saturn is connected to old age. And and Venus, of course, is beauty. Well, we tend to think of old age as not beautiful, as challenging. Saturn is about discipline, about organization, hard work. And, Venus would love to reap rewards with the least amount of effort because of that pleasure-seeking quality. So when you're looking at any aspect in astrology, what you're basically doing is you're combining two planets and their influences, and kind of seeing, okay, how do they mesh? How do they work together? And so in this particular case, I mean, even with the conjunction, and conjunctions can sometimes be beneficial, or, what we would call positive, or they can be sometimes challenging and sometimes neutral, but it all depends on the sign or signs involved. And in this particular case, I would say that I was going to include the conjunction. I'll probably do that in a separate video because I didn't want to, I really didn't want to combine it, because I've actually seen more positive things with the conjunction. But with the square and opposition, they definitely can indicate either blockages with the square or relationship issues, really, in a pronounced way with the opposition. So, but even with Venus squaring Saturn, this can definitely be about relationships, because that's what Venus is about, love, and we can have love in all different kinds of forms, but that idea of self-love too, is also a big deal. So, starting with the opposition, and this, to me, this can definitely transpire with with the square is a basic feeling of having been unloved by one's parents. And this can be especially with the father. The parent can be cold. Now, we're talking about Saturn, so I mean, technically it's associated with the father, or you could say the more the disciplinarian, authoritarian parent, the one who tended to be the stricter parent. Maybe they were strict. You know, Saturn can be very harsh, and you know, like that idea of discipline taken to extremes, and this is and sometimes children who come from strict families feel very unloved because they feel that they weren't allowed to do things that other kids are allowed to do. So there is that definite connection between a strict parent. I'm not even talking about hitting your children, but just being too strict, having too many rules. And if you were criticized, there can be things that that produces, including being very self-conscious. But before I continue, I'd like to give a shout out to a couple of sites that I really found the most useful in terms of information. One of them is luaastrology.com and the other is astrologyking.com. And the other thing I want to point out before I continue is that if you have one of these aspects that is so challenging, it's important not to feel like a victim of it, because at a higher level, there's a possibility that you may have chosen this dynamic between you and a parent, for instance, to experience what it is like to be on the receiving end of this deprivation, emotional deprivation, for more information in your soul's journey. And, you know, some people would look at that statement as saying that I'm blaming the victim, and that's not true. I'm removing the concept of the victim while at the same time acknowledging that that might have been your reality. The challenge always is not to stay in that identity for the rest of your life and to act it out in different ways. But it's certainly understandable that if you experience that can affect the way that you value yourself and also the way that you interact with others in general. And, you know, it's interesting because Venus is connected to money, but it's also connected to self-worth. Venus rules the second house that deals with both your finances as well as your self-worth and how you value your being. And so it can create an inferiority complex, in other words, to have either of these challenging aspects. And for the opposition, there can be, I think, and this was what I found on Astrology King, this tendency to project onto others. Oppositions, you can, see the one-on-one relationship or any kind of relationship that the person projects their own negative feelings onto another person. And so blame can be something that is commonplace because the person obviously doesn't want to feel those feelings. And if they get triggered, or even if they are still not healed from the initial relationship where they were deprived, they can, almost be like accusatory, looking for people to blame for not giving them enough love. And I would say even with the square, there can be this, maybe this constant feeling of I'm not loved, that mantra that is being saying. With the square, there's a blockage. So maybe somebody is trying to love you, but it's not the right way that you feel that the correct way to love you. And really it's because until you can access your own healing coming from within, and that starts with loving yourself, it's like being a bottomless cup of need, where it's like I need something from the outside to fill me up, but even if you were to get love from the outside, it wouldn't reach you because it's like that blockage. And with the square, now I really feel like these things are interchangeable sometimes. Is that the square, they said, not feeling you can follow your bliss. I like paraphrased it. So the opposite, well, forget about the opposition. The Saturn influence is like being dutiful, being responsible. So there's always that, critical parent inside of you that whenever you're trying to feel good in life, is there an almost like saying you don't deserve this, or that is something that is frivolous, or like you have to work, and what are you doing seeking out pleasure, that kind of thing. And gosh, I don't know if it was Lua Astrology, one of the sites that I saw, I think it was something else, Leah Whitehorse, one of those sites. It was funny because they had some famous people who have these hard angles, and one of them was Dustin Hoffman, the actor, and I think he has a square. But they were saying that they were quoting him where he once said something like it was disgusting to have a vacation or something like that. I know that his sun is in Leo, and Leos can be workaholics, but I don't know what his Venus and Saturn signs are in. But I mean, I didn't get I don't know exactly what he said, but something like that, which is kind of funny because that's exactly what I'm getting at. This idea of like blocking your own pleasure and feeling that you can't do it, but you're doing that to yourself. And you may have been conditioned to do that by a parent who is very hard on you, but now you've taken over as an adult and are doing it to yourself. You might feel out of the loop socially, and feel like you're on the outside looking in. I saw this for the square, so I don't know. I would imagine that could apply to the opposition. But the square is really about the blockage, so I could see how that would work. Yeah, I put here negative inner parent is self-denying. So that the thing about Venus, to me, it's a sense of being worthy and about self-love. And if you are a person who is self-denying, whether it's being a workaholic and not, taking time out to rest enough, to pursue hobbies and just social activities, whatever it is that floats your boat, that can be a sign that you're not really honoring yourself and you're not giving yourself pleasure, that you're denying yourself pleasure. But one thing they said that was very interesting is they mentioned that your standards in love are too high. And so therefore you can deny yourself love because you can come up with excuses why, such and such person isn't appropriate for you. And of course, that's almost like taking over from that critical parent towards you and imposing that on another person. Now, I saw this for the square. I would imagine that somebody could do this with the opposition to their partner and kind of embody that critical parent. and mimic how they treated them to their significant other. So anyway, I think that while these aspects are difficult, I think that they can still provide a serious attitude in love, and that is worthwhile. One of the sites that I saw mentioned after you are 30 that can, and I think they were talking about the conjunction, but I'm sure that would apply to all of these, is that things might get a little bit easier, because I'm assuming they're talking about the first Saturn return, and that being the maturation process and the individuation from the family of origin, so that can make the person less influenced by the past, perhaps. I don't know. But in any case, I hope that this resonated. And if you would like me to look at your chart, I would be happy to do so. You can check out the link below for more information. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.